everyone, welcome back to Virtual Sunday School. We're so excited that you're here with us, and hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get back in person with you all, but for right now we're still going to be doing these videos. So let's jump into continuing to talk about spiritual gifts and what we have been given and being a servant. That's really what we want to talk about tonight, is being a servant. So think about what your ideal kingdom would be like. For me, it would be huge. It would have a lot of rooms. It would have different things in every room. I would have maybe an arcade, and I would have a huge kitchen, and I would have a million bedrooms that I could go sleep in a different bedroom each night, okay? That's kind of just, in a silly way, what my kingdom would be like. But what would your ideal kingdom be? Who would be there? What would you have in place there? When we think about having a kingdom or ruling the world, it might seem to be something really spectacular or something really awesome that we could do. And that's something that Jesus had. Jesus had an entire kingdom under him. Jesus had the world. He had heaven. He had everything at his fingertips. He is the Son of God. So he inherited, he was a part of, he had everything. Yet, despite what all he had and who all he is and was, he still did something that was completely unthinkable, something that was unimaginable. So we're going to read about that tonight. We're going to first jump into Philippians 2 verses 5 through 8. So you can turn there with me, and I'm going to read that for us. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. So, when we think about what Jesus did, and we think about, we've been going back in all these weeks, and we're talking about how we are to be like Jesus, we are to do what Jesus did. We are to take that same attitude that Jesus took. We aren't to think of ourselves, even though as Christians we have inherited the kingdom of God, we aren't to think of ourselves as, oh, we're done, we are heirs now of the kingdom, we have everything we need, we don't have to work anymore. That's not the attitude that Jesus wants us to have. He wants us to have the attitude that he had when he was here on earth. He was a servant. He loved people. He cared for people. He took care of people. And we're going to read about that some more in some verses later on. But it's crazy to read these verses and to think Jesus did not count himself as equal with God. Jesus emptied himself and he took the form of a servant. He became a servant. He was fully human, although he was also fully God, which is a really hard concept for a lot of people to grasp. But he became a servant when he was here on earth, and he sacrificed himself on a cross for us. It's crazy to think that he could have given up everything, but he did. That was the plan all along, because that was just a step in the plan to get to where we are now. He is still in heaven. He is still alive. He rose from the grave. We've talked about that before. He ascended into heaven. He still has everything he had before, but that was a necessary step for him to come here, to be a servant, and to die on the cross for us. And that's what we should be thankful for. And that's why we should be a servant for him, because he gave everything for us. So we're going to move on. We are going to be reading in Isaiah chapter 53. And we're going to be reading verses 3 through 5. He was despised and rejected by men, and we're talking about Jesus, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. So Jesus gave up everything. He gave up heaven and everything that came with it, and he went through everything that we see here. He was despised. He was rejected. He was afflicted. He was pierced and crushed. He gave up all of that for us. We've talked about that in previous lessons, that it was all for us. It was for our good. So when you hear about that, when you see that, when you know that that sacrifice was for you, how does that make you feel? And how does that make you want to contribute back? What does that make you want to give? What can we do and how can we respond to be doing what Jesus wants us to be doing? That's something that we should be thinking about. There's a passage in John 13. I'm not going to read the whole chapter right now, but in John 13 you see that Jesus was washing the disciples' feet. That was an act of service that he committed while he was here on earth. That was something that was completely shocking, because typically that was not something that anyone would want to do. The reason that the disciples had to have their feet washed was because they oftentimes wore sandals, if any shoes at all. They walked all day. The streets were completely dirty. They weren't nice paved roads like we have now. They were dirt roads. And they would have probably been places with a lot of animals, so they could have been stepping in nasty things. Their feet were not clean. But that was the point of having their feet washed. It was a huge service to them, and that's why Jesus did that. No one else wanted to wash their feet, but Jesus wanted to wash their feet because he wanted to show that he loved them, and he wanted to set an example for them of how they were to treat other people, because he wanted to treat them that way as an act of love and showing them his love. So Jesus commands us in John 13 to wash other people's feet. He commands us to do that act for others. But now necessarily we don't have to physically wash someone else's feet, because hopefully we all have a pair of shoes. Hopefully we aren't walking through a field of animal stuff. Hopefully we're not walking up and down dirt roads all day, every day. So we shouldn't be literally washing each other's feet, but we should be figuratively washing each other's feet by serving each other in a thing that no one else is going to want to do. No one else might want to pick up that friend across town and take them where they need to go. No one else might want to take their friend out and help them to get groceries and take them back home. No one else might want to help them go move something in their house, or do whatever it is. Whatever you know what you have been asked to do before, and you know what you have asked others to do before that no one wants to do. And those are the things Jesus wants us to commit to serve others in a positive way, to show his love and do what he would do. So Jesus washing the disciples' feet, that's something that was completely shocking to everyone. But that's the example he wants us to follow. We are going to turn to John 15, 12 through 13. And that says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." So, again, Jesus wanted us to love each other like he loved us. That's something you hear over and over again. That's the number one commandment, is to love other people. He commands us to lay down our lives, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he wants us to go down and physically die for somebody, but it means to put other people's needs first. Put other people above ourselves and think about other people more than we think about what we want or what we need. We need to be willing to sacrifice for others to show the love that he showed for us, because that's what love is about. Love is about sacrifice, and we see that in the ultimate sacrifice that Jesus gave for us. So the last passage we are going to read is actually just one verse. We are going to be in Romans 12, and we're going to read verse 1. "I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship." So why is sacrifice an act of worship? Why can we sacrifice and consider that worship? That's because we are living our lives by sacrificing and by showing other people that love. We're living our lives as examples of Jesus. We're showing our love by showing our love to God and the love that God gave us by showing love to others. And that's what Jesus wants for us. He wants us to love others by giving up ourselves. Jesus didn't demand the service that he deserved when he was here on earth. Jesus came from everything. He sacrificed everything to come down to earth and to walk with humankind. And he deserved to be treated like the king that he was, but he wasn't, and he did not demand that people treated him like a king. He just wanted others to love him, and he wanted others to love who they were walking with in that time. And he gave to others. He served others. So Jesus wants us not to love others theoretically, not to go around and say, oh, of course I love everyone, or oh, of course I love my neighbors, or of course I do things for others. He wants us to actually get down and do those things. He wants us to serve others and to give up everything because of love. He wants us to follow that example and to be that example for other people. So that's just what I want to leave you with tonight. Being a servant and having a servant's heart and making sure that you are showing the love that God gave you to others, that you are loving others in that way. That's just something really important. Obviously, it's our number one commandment, and it's something that we should be living every day of our lives. So we're really excited that you get to be here with us, although we're not in the same room together and we can't talk these things over. I hope that you're getting something from these videos that we're putting up for you. We'll see you all tonight on small group. We'll have Zoom at 7 o'clock. We'll see you Wednesday night at 8 on Instagram Live, and hopefully we'll see you next week in virtual Sunday school. We love you all. Bye.